What's up, y'all? Kyle Hamilton here. I want to give a quick shout out to Lucas, Connor, and Ryan in the Week 0 podcast.
Jackson rolling out, 3rd and 7 after the penalty, and it's a completion to Kuma. He's still running. Kuma breaks free against a tired defense as the Hokies deliver the dagger here in Tallahassee. Empty look for Richardson. Oh, that is danger! Oh my! Keidron Smith cuts inside, and he's gonna pick six it in the swamp. Cat scratch fever Smith.
DJ is picked off, intercepted again by Benjamin Morrison. Here goes Morrison down the sideline. Can he go? Yes, he can. Touchdown, pick six, Benjamin Morrison. Nix drops back underneath. Touchdown, Ducks. Wow. Chase Porter.
Welcome back, everyone, to a new episode of the Gold Standard in season this time. I am your host, Ryan Fravel. Forgot to change the nickname, Navy Sunk, which they did in Ireland. Anyways, I'm back with my co-host, Sean, at ND Forever on Twitter. It is finally Notre Dame game week again, facing Tennessee State of the FCS. Sean, anyways, man, how are you doing, and how'd you feel watching that complete obliteration of Navy?
I love Sam Hartman!
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Great. It was a great game to watch. Enjoying these stress-free games before we start to get some of these stressful ones. We'll talk about the game when we talk about the game, but I'm doing great with my own.
So, I mean, overall, Sean, it was a great performance from Sam Hartman. 4 touchdown passes in his Notre Dame debut. Ties the record with Jack Cohn for the most passing touchdowns by a quarterback in their Notre Dame debut.
Amron Palace.
Exactly. So, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it everywhere on Twitter like I did. Ohio State fans trying to downplay the win, saying, oh, it's just Navy, but those were the same people that picked Notre Dame to lose to Navy or it be a close game a couple hours before game time. But, Sean, personally, how do you feel about this win? Like, were there some things that you liked? Were there some things you didn't like? Things you'd like to see improve?
Yeah. So first off, with your first point of the amount of people who thought it'd be a close game, Josh Pate is one of my favorite influencers when it comes to the college football sport we all know and love. He made a point saying that the same people who said Notre Dame isn't going to cover are the same people who are saying it's just Navy. You can't say both. If you thought they were going to cover, just admit you're wrong, right? But what I thought, the offense was flawless. I mean, you could pick out a few small things: the Audric fumble, the holding penalty by Mitchell Evans. But when was the last time Notre Dame did not target a tight end at all in a game? 3 times in the past decade, all against Navy. So that's pretty impressive to see how our offense, the first 5 drives of the game, scored a touchdown every drive of the game. It was smooth. And, I mean, they would have gotten a field goal, which would have been great to add to the league. But, I mean, he missed the field goal. I'm just going to blame it on Ireland, right? Maybe the error is different there. I expected more from Schrader. But, yeah, I mean, the things that impressed me the most. When was the last time? I'm going to give you 3 things. On offense, 3 things on defense. All right? When was the last time we saw a Notre Dame quarterback throw the ball like that? Brady Quinn, maybe Jimmy Clausen. Deshaun Kaiser had a few throws like that, but as consistent as he was, I mean, when he threw the first touchdown to Greathouse, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Right in his arms. He's spinning. My favorite play was when he threw his second touchdown to Greathouse. When he did that, I was like, oh my God. He was flawless, and this makes me want to raise the ceiling even more for Notre Dame this year. Just saying that. Yes, it's just Navy, But Navy's better than San Jose State, arguably, and you saw how USC struggled for the first half of the football game. So Sam Hartman is the real deal. He was so impressive. He makes all our receivers.
I believe this is the throw to. I know that's the catch by Colsey, but go ahead.
I mean, everyone around him gets better. He spread the ball out to 9 different receivers, I believe.
And not one of them was a tight end, which is insane to think about it. The tight end
So I love it. I love it. I want to see the highlight there. I'm waiting for it for the Great House touchdown. My second thing I wanted to mention, the offensive line. Holy shit! I mean, I'm not going to say I was surprised. We're O-line U. There's the first one. But yeah, I'm not surprised. But I'm going to be honest. I'm not surprised Rocco Splendor balled out the way he did. But I am surprised Ashton Craig or Pat Coogan played the way he did. I thought Billy Strauss should have won the job. And I was like, Coogan? You know?
Yeah, I think we both were like that about Coogan, but go ahead.
He looked like the real deal at guard. He was great when it came to blocking. He had a flawless game, I think. I mean, there were some nitpicking things that we could maybe nitpick, but it's his first start. I think he's the real deal. He shocked me. That was one of my favorite things seeing the game was how much time the offensive line gave him. Because everyone thought the year Jack Cohn came that this was going to be a great offensive line, and the offensive line sucked that year until Joe Alt came in after Blake Fisher got hurt. And they started getting a little better by the end of the season. This offensive line looked legit, right?
Now, and I know it's also, I think that there 2 things can be true. Notre Dame looked like a playoff team in week 0. But I think you also have to keep in context. Like, it is against Navy. Navy is very undersized on the offensive and defensive line because they have that weight limit, for the Naval Academy. But, we just look at the improvement from last year to this year with this team. Last year, it was a nail biter against Navy. This year, we put Navy away in the first quarter. I mean,
I enjoyed the whole game.
I did too. And, you know how nice it was for the first time in a while to watch a Notre Dame game and not have to worry.
Enjoy it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The play's coming up. I think it's next, by the way. My favorite play, I think it was right after the penalty to Great House. Oh, nope. Never mind. It was the 35-point touchdown, so it'll be later. But I will say that my third point, I'm going to talk about the wide receivers. This was a big concern last year with all the injuries. Thomas, I want to mention, I mentioned it on Twitter, and I want to mention it here. Who would have thought when we got Lorenzo Styles and Deion Colsey that he would be our number 1 receiver, arguably, that class? No one. No, let's be real, no one. He's there. It is. Oh,
yeah, there it is, man. That was. Well, watch this play, man. It's just like that's Aaron Rodgers-esque. Like that was just. When's the last time you seen a Notre Dame quarterback do that?
But I'm going to be real. So this is the things with the receivers. Thomas looks like the true number 1, which is great. I absolutely loved seeing Chris Tyree in the slot. Chris Tyree looked great.
Yeah, he looked more comfortable. Did it seem like that to you? Like he looked more comfortable at wide receiver than he did at running back?
I was nervous about him transitioning. Is he going to be able to catch the ball fluidly? And he was legit in the slot. It's probably his only year he'll play in the slot. He probably is gone after this year. I don't imagine him coming back.
I think he has 2 years. That's including this year.
You think he would come back?
Yeah.
That's going to be something.
It depends on what his NFL stock looks like, I think.
Yeah, after the season. But
yeah,
my last thing on the receivers for my 3 points of offense is Great House. I mean, I got to talk about it. I mean, 2 touchdowns in his debut game. We all knew the freshman would come in and be a big part of the offense, but who would have thought the first game of the season, Great House would have 2 touchdowns? in the first game of the season. I mean, I don't even remember the last time. If we look at freshman wide receivers, it took Tobias he only had 1 touchdown the whole year last year.
I don't even think, because I believe Golden Tate started as a freshman.
Lorenzo Styles played a shit ton as a freshman.
But Golden Tate, I don't even think Golden Tate ever had 2 touchdowns in a Notre Dame performance as a true freshman.
Yeah, so I mean, he looks legit. So does Zachariah Branch too. But so that's gonna be a fun.
But nobody will talk about Jaden Greathouse. They'll talk about Zachariah Branch though, because it's USC.
So my defensively, so there's the things that impressed me and what I want to see. I was very impressed with our linebacking core, specifically with Maurice Leofau. He looked different. Last year, he looked like the one that we hoped we would get before his injury. Last year, he wasn't the best when it came to tackling and pursuing the ball carrier. And he was on every play. If you watch every single play defensively, he was there, right? So I was very happy with the lineback play. I was very happy with the defensive line. I was very happy with Anye, Botello, even Joshua Burnham, right, getting the sack. And against Navy, I mean, you're lucky if you get a sack against Navy. So defensive line looked good. And, I mean, hold them to 3 points. That's my other thing on defense. So what I want to see, though, is every time they came up, they weren't playing against the pass. So every time Navy went to pass the ball, the guy was wide open. What do you expect? They're playing against the run heavily. It's a part of what I'm interested to see against Tennessee State is some reps of these cornerbacks and defensive backs play against the pass, because they're going to pass a lot more than Navy. So that's something I'm looking forward to. But I want to know your like what you thought about the game too, and what were your big things and et cetera, offensively, defensively, special teams.
So for me, I thought the defense came out pretty solid. There were a few lapses, especially on the back end, that I know I kind of want to just attribute to Navy, because Navy kind of lulls you to sleep and they don't ever really throw the ball. But there were times where I believe one of the times it was DJ Brown who got lost on that wheel route that should have been a touchdown pass for Navy. That the two guys ran into each other. DJ Brown got completely lost in coverage. Kind of worries me a little bit. And then the other one was Cam Hart, which was Navy's only completion of the game. For me, it's like you guys are 60-year seniors and you guys are, getting lapses in coverage like that against Navy. What's going to happen when you guys do that against Ohio State or Clemson?
Agreed. But you have to remember, I mean, their game plan was not to be against the pass. So, I mean, when the receivers are going past you, you're playing against the run. And especially when it's like you're doing a fake handoff and you're going up to get the run, he's going to throw it up or something. When they do all these pitches, laterals, and then throw it like they did a few times to the wide receiver, it is tough to defend against that in that type of game environment. So I'm not holding them accountable for that yet. Now, if I see that this week against Penn State or against NC State, Central Michigan, then we have a problem. Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried yet about that.
And then the only other worry I had on defense was the first half, not the second half, but the first half. Navy didn't really have that hard of a time going down the field on our defense. It was more Navy shot themselves in the foot. We might have a sack or a tackle for loss here and there. But most of the game, early on, it felt like Notre Dame wasn't really stopping Navy. It was more Navy was stopping themselves. That kind of worries me a little bit because Navy is really terrible this year. And, Dabo Fofana had another amazing game against us. That guy is just insane and hard to tackle for whatever reason. But outside of that, I thought the defense, like if I had to give the defense a grade, probably a B, like get a solid B, not an A+. I think that a B is, they had a lot of missed tackles, a lot of misreads. And I wouldn't say the whole defense was bad. I think it was just the inexperience on the defensive line and the edge, because Jordan Botelho was out there sometimes looking lost. Like there were a few times I noticed him run for no reason, just into a Navy offensive lineman for no reason, even though the play was going to the outside. So yeah, I want to see that cleaned up. We'll see if that gets cleaned up against Tennessee State. Offensively, I thought we played fantastic. Jaden Greathouse, I think, is going to be maybe that number 2, number 3 receiver for this team. It's going to be tough because I think Colsey played insanely well too. I think
played 7 snaps.
Who did? Colsey?
Yeah.
That's that. One worry I do have about the receiving core is Tobias. No targets.
You know what it reminded me of? It made me think of Styles. Like someone that we were like had a good. Well, he didn't even have a good freshman year. Tobias, he had one big catch. But he's not looking good as the other receivers. But he should have had a touchdown that was the pass interference or underthrown by Sam Hartman. Pretty much his only bad throw of the game. And he did drop a pass early.
The one that probably should have been a pick 6 for Hartman. The one that he hit, he threw, didn't see the corner jump it, and it went through the corner's hands. That one was kind of But yeah, I for Tobias being that number 1 guy outside of Jaden Thomas that a lot of people thought, for him to get 1 target, which was a drop, he almost looked – did he look kind of nervous out there to you a little bit?
He's a sophomore, and he hasn't had a lot of real game prep or game reps yet. He'll do fine against Tennessee State. I guarantee you I'm not guaranteeing, but I think he will get a touchdown or have 50 yards or have a decent game. And if he doesn't, start Colsey. I mean, Colsey's looking good too.
Dude, Colsey looks like he's improved a lot. The catch he made that we showed earlier.
Which one, the screen route?
The one that he caught, he mossed the Navy defender. That was just a beautiful throw. That's not a catch Colsey makes last year.
I think it's a catch he makes at the end of last year, not the beginning. Because at the end of last year, Drew Pine was just throwing shit up to Michael Mayer, and he occasionally cut through some passes to Colsey. So I think Colsey, end of last year, might have been that if he had a different quarterback. But what do you think of the running backs? I mean, Jadarian Price, first career run.
I liked it. We have a 5-headed monster at running back, which is kind of scary because I don't think you're going to be able to, not every team is like Navy where you're going to be able to feed every single back in the stable. So I think, Tennessee State, you're going to be able to do that. NC State, you're not going to be able to do that. So I think we'll find out. I think we need to find out who that 3-back rotation is going to be by the end of the Tennessee State game. We need to figure out who's it going to be.
Jabron Payne and probably Jadarian Price for now.
I've seen people say, it should be Audric, Jadarian Price, Jeremiah Love.
I don't disagree, but I mean, when Jabron Payne committed so late in the cycle, I was like, just another body in the room. But he looked good running the football yesterday.
He looked like a baby Audric Estime.
So, he looked power. And
they all averaged.
Every
single running back averaged over 5 yards a carry.
I think right now it's this way. I do think later in the season it changes to Jadarian Price becoming the number 2 main back, because I think Jadarian Price is our starting running back next year. But hopefully not. I hope Audric comes back. But I got a feeling Audric is going to enter the draft. But Jadarian Price, I think later in the year can be our 2. But I think right now it's unquestioned that Jabron Payne is our number 2 running back. And Audric every single run of Audric was a first down pretty much. I mean, he just bullied people. His fumble concerned me because last year he had fumble problems. This year he got benched for a bit because of it. So, I mean, I hope it's not consistency because, he needs to stop with that fumbling the ball. Hold on to that ball, buddy.
I think that's only, his 3rd fumble he's had?
4th, I think.
3rd or 4th.
Yeah.
I think what his issue is, and I've seen, I think Goolsby touched on this during their post game. Audric, when you have a big running back like that, if you watch him play, He seeks out the contact, and then what he typically does is he spins out of it. When the moment he loses the ball, I think 3 out of the 4 times he's lost it is when he's in that initial spin.
Yeah.
And that's because when he's spinning, he's doing it off of 1 foot. He's not doing it off of 2. And when he spins, he switches the ball into a different hand. At that point, that's when it becomes exposed. I think if he could fix that, I think it can change a lot, because like I used to play running back. So when you spin, you're not supposed to spin on 1 foot. You're supposed to spin off 2 because you have more traction. You're able to keep your feet under you.
Yeah.
The fact that Audric can do that and still keep his feet is insane. But it also scares me because when you're spinning off that one leg, you're one tackle, you're one defender falling into that leg from, you know what I mean? Like, you got to be careful.
He needs to be careful.
I do like them fighting for yards, but I do think this year, if Notre Dame wants to accomplish what they need to, Audric has to stay healthy. He's done that so far.
And if he does that, I mean, if the way we run the ball behind this offensive line with Sam Hartman, I mean, if you can't stop the run and then you have Sam Hartman throwing because you're focused on the run, you're fucked. Like, I'm sorry. That's the way I'm going to say it. Like,
so let me ask you this, and then we'll go ahead and get to the Tennessee State preview. What grade would you give the Notre Dame's performance against Navy? And then how does this does it change your outlook on the season, what Notre Dame's ceiling is, or does it not have any effect because it is just Navy?
Yes to everything.
Okay.
So I give it an A+, right? I don't care that it's Navy. You executed. You did what you needed to do. You beat the spread. You held them to 3 points. You scored 42 points, right? You're in Ireland, your second home. You win that. You're all jet lag and stuff. It was punched out perfectly. It was. He just, boom. So yeah, I mean, I say A+ for the reason they did what they're supposed to. They're in a neutral or in Ireland. They're third home. They should never lose in Ireland. They executed everything perfectly. It couldn't have been a better game. And they went out of there with no injuries. I mean, I know Gabriel Rubio is week to week right now on the D line, and he might not play until like the Ohio State game. But to leave Navy without any injuries is huge. So I give it an A+. My worry is that they focus so much on Navy defending the run, how they're going to do against the pass against teams like NC State. But we'll see. And on the outlook of the season, it does raise the ceiling a bit for me. I thought this team going into the year, the ceiling was 11-1. But I thought we would finish 10-2. I'm really worried about NC State still. That's a huge trap game for me. 2 weeks before Ohio State at NC State, Armstrong back with his offensive coordinator. That ain't a pushover. I think we win by 1 score. Like, I'm really worried about that game. But this does raise the ceiling because I was like, we're not going to make the playoffs. We'll win a New Year's Six Bowl this year. Mm-hmm. I think if this team goes 11-1, they should be in the playoff. It depends on who they lose to, but I think they should be in the playoff. And if they win 2 out of the 3 and they're in the playoff, I think the ceiling for this team with Hartman, with his experiences, he could win a playoff game.
And you know what? Like, I'm gonna give Notre Dame an A because I don't. There were some things that wasn't an overall perfect, game, but I think an A is definitely what should be given there. But I don't know if it raised my expectations a little bit, but I think it makes me feel more confident when we face Ohio State, more confident when we play USC, especially after seeing USC's defense.
I'm still a little eerie until I see Clemson, which watch out for Duke this week.
Yeah, you know what? That's another thing. Like, really quick, what are some games, week 1 games, that you're most look forward to watching in terms of a Notre Dame future opponent?
Future opponent?
Yeah. Because I personally I want to see NC State. NC State plays UConn on the road.
Yeah.
UConn is a 6-6 team last year. They're going to be more improved. And what happened last time North Carolina State went on the road against a group of 5 team, almost didn't end well. So I'm kind of NC State's only a 14-point favorite against UConn.
I think I'm going with Duke NC State. I mean, Duke Clemson, just because we played both teams. And I think that we played Duke, right? Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
And Duke, someone asked me the other day, what's a team that we think starts the season unranked and ends the season ranked? I think it's yes, 11-1 should be playoff bound 100%. But I wouldn't say it's who they lose to of the 3. I think where we're going to run into the problem is then what everybody else does. Because I'm this type of person, and hate me for it. If Notre Dame goes 11-1 and there's a conference champion that goes 12-1, that conference champion should be in. Now
depends on who the conference champion is.
Don't hate me for this, but if Notre Dame goes 11-1 and Ohio State goes 11-1, Notre Dame should be in over Ohio State because they beat Ohio State. If they beat Clemson 11-1, they should have the tiebreaker. But it's going to be really tough because what if there's 2 SEC teams that get in, right? Let's say Clemson goes undefeated. We lose to Clemson like your scenario. Let's say Georgia and Alabama both get in. Why not? It's happened before. That 4th spot, who's going to get in? Michigan? Ohio State? It's Clemson? I mean, it's tricky, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how this year goes. I do think 11-1, we should be in the playoff.
Let me ask you this, Corey, or kind of piggybacking off of Corey's comment. If we go 11-1, do you think it hurts losing that one game to Clemson because it is later in the year, or do you think it would be better to lose that to USC or Ohio State early in the year? Because how I look at it is like, say Notre Dame's 11-0, or not 11-0. They are.
Have to beat Ohio State.
What is Clemson like? Game 9, game 10.
Yeah,
you're 9-0 going into Clemson. You're probably a top 3 team, top 4, definitely. You lose to Clemson. Say Clemson's undefeated. Does that knock you completely? Like you have, because your next 2 games are against Wake and what is it? Stanford, I want to say. Wake and Stanford. Like, is that enough to, while other teams are playing, Ohio State?
Is it terrible to say? Like, I mean, will we lose to Clemson? I mean, we completely dog shitted them last year with Drew Pine as our fucking quarterback, who lost the job with an injury to a freshman at Arizona State. I mean, we dominated them.
Dude, Clemson fans. I got one of my buddies is a big Clemson fan. He thinks Clemson loses to Notre Dame.
Interesting.
A lot of Clemson fans don't feel confident about that game.
I mean, I would because it's at Clemson. That's what makes me worried is that it's at Clemson.
And it's probably going to be a night game, I would assume.
Yeah, but back on, I'm nervous. I'm going to the USC game this year for what you all know. This is my first Notre Dame game in about 6 years. My first sport event in about, besides a Kraken game I went to in about 5-6 years because we were stationed up in Alaska, my wife and I. And we're going to Notre Dame USC, and I'm hoping game day is going to be there, but I got a feeling they're going to go to Notre Dame Ohio State, which means they're not going to go to Notre Dame twice. So we'll see, but I do think Duke is a team to watch out for that starts the year unranked and ends the year ranked. I think that's going to help our schedule too, because Duke, I mean, watch out for Duke. I mean, they ain't too shabby. So
hey, do you want? I mean, as an Notre Dame fan, do you want Duke to upset Clemson week 1?
No.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was kind of figuring.
It sucks because I love upsets and I always root for upsets. By the way, I have Florida State's winning this week against LSU. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah, because
I
I
don't know
hate
why
LSU.
everyone's picking LSU.
We do not like LSU on this channel.
I don't know why everyone's picking LSU when, I mean, they
Dude, I've seen people say LSU's going to blow out Florida State, and I'm like,
I mean,
what?
LSU got shit on last year, and they only lost by 1 point. Let's not forget Florida State was up a touchdown at the 1 yard line with a minute left, about to score and go up 2 scores. If it wasn't for that fumble, it wouldn't have been a 1 point game. I mean, It happened. They lost by 1 point, but let's not act like Florida State didn't get a bunch of people in the transfer portal. But this is a Notre Dame channel. We'll go back.
All right, so moving on, we got Tennessee State coming up. I'll pull this up because this is the only kind of game film I can find on Tennessee State from the last year. They played Mississippi State last year. Wasn't beautiful. They lost 56-3. But overall, man, this is the game where Notre Dame should probably have them put away within the first 7 minutes of the first quarter. I kind of hope that we get to see Angeli and Minchie get a series. I don't know if Minchie will get much playing time. And if he does, I'm sure with how Freeman coaches, they're not going to want to drop 90 points on Tennessee State and just keep throwing the ball. But what are some things that you'd like to see, improved on, or what would you like to see going into week 1 against Tennessee State?
Like I said, the defensive backs. I want to see them against a team that's going to throw the ball against them. That's a big one for me. I do want to see Angeli. He had 1 pass yesterday, and it was last week against Navy, and it wasn't really even a pass. So I don't know. It's going to be tough. I want this game to be over by the half, and I want mid-third quarter, at least the start of the fourth quarter, for Angeli to have a whole quarter at least. I want to see the backups in the third quarter. I want to see a lot of freshmen, Drake, Osbury, play too, to get some development and time. That's my keys that I want to see, and Notre Dame should at least have 50 points. I wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee State scores a touchdown. I mean, I think they score at least 10 points. It's still horrible, but they're at Notre Dame. Everyone tries their hardest at Notre Dame. When are they ever going to go back to Notre Dame? They're probably going to score a touchdown just to get that feeling of getting a touchdown.
Score a touchdown late against our 6th team defense.
Yeah, I mean, I think they score at least 10 points. I think they score more than Navy. If we shut them out, wouldn't that be nice?
If they score more points than Navy.
I mean, that's not saying much. I mean, we'll see, but we should dominate this game again. It should be another good weekend, enjoying college football, watching all these teams lose. Hopefully some big upsets happen. It's a very lackluster week 1.
Let me ask you this, because it is Tennessee State. I don't know if you knew this. Their coach is Eddie George.
Yeah, Eddie George. I used to be a Titans fan back in the day before. I'm an Arizona Cardinals fan, but my dad and stuff's from Tennessee. He's a Titans fan, and he's a big Eddie George fan. So trust me, I knew that. But I will say that for people who are mad we're playing an FCS opponent, I get it. Yeah. I get it. I see a lot of people mad. You don't want to play an FCS opponent. But if there was ever a time to do so,
it is against Eddie George's team.
Coming back from Ireland, you need a game to get some reps in. We're playing a nice Eddie George program, HBCU, a good program, a good school. You know what? Who cares? I mean, we are giving. At least we're not playing 2 a season, but this team is getting the chance, a once-in-a-lifetime chance, to come in South Bend and play against Notre Dame. That makes that team. I mean, I get it. It's we're wasting our time, but you never know. App State beat Michigan.
Well, I mean, do you think that we see, because I know we're all excited for the future. Do you think we see Minchie get a couple series? No.
Not at all. I think it's all Angeli.
Do you think we see any Braylon James, Rico Flores?
Yes. I think we see all those receivers. I think we see all the freshman linebackers and Christian Gray. And then I think we see That's probably it. I mean, we might have some backup offensive linemen in, like an Ashton Craig, a center late in the game. He better light it up. Heisman season, by the way.
What's the over/under on touchdown passes for Sam Hartman for the Tennessee State game?
5.
You think they keep him in that much?
Yeah, Heisman season. Build up his stats.
Oh man! By the way, I know some Notre Dame fans were talking about this on Twitter that they were upset about this. What do you make about Audric? Coming back in late in the fourth quarter for a drive with Stephen Jelly. I think there was people saying that it was something to do with Audric's NIL deal, where like something about if he gets 100 yards, he gets more money, and people are saying that was what that was. They were trying to get him to 100. I mean,
total yard. Does that count?
No, it has to be 100 rushing yards, I believe. So, I don't like that as a coach because I'm like, I understand, Audric, you want your money, but I care more about your health.
Had Jeremiah Lovin or Ford or Payne or somebody.
It's like, you know how pissed off the fan base would be if Audric got hurt.
Yeah,
with like 3 minutes to go and against Navy.
I'd be pissed. I mean, I would be. I'd be pissed. There's no reason he should have been in the game. But I like the coaching move to take him out the game.
Oh, for the fumble? Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. 5 or 4. So, yeah. Josh says 5 or 4 for Sam Hartman.
All righty. I mean, he's going to light it up again.
Yeah, Hartman will light it up, and we see Angeli coming, and we're up. Big. I wish they would pour it on and keep scoring, but can't get Hartman hurt, so I understand it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole second half, at least, I mean, if not the second half, early in the third quarter, it needs to be backups. There's no reason we shouldn't be up 3-4 scores going into the half, and there's no
Can we score 80 points? I know Marcus Freeman's not the head coach to do that, like to pour it on, but I mean, it's Tennessee State. Like, if Mississippi State can drop 56 on them last year, Notre Dame's better than Mississippi State. Can we?
Look at that hole he just ran through. Notre Dame is like a divide of the ocean, just going straight.
The parting of the Red Sea.
Yeah, like it's gonna be.
Like, please, 70 points. I don't actually remember watching a Notre Dame the last time they scored 70 points.
I don't know if I've ever seen them score 70 points.
I know I've seen them score 63, I think 66 at one point, but like, dude, I just want to see Notre Dame like score. I want to see them score. I want to hear the Notre Dame fight song. 8 times.
Oh, that I agree with. By the way, since we're talking about, I think it's going to be a bunch of turnovers this defense forces in that game. But speaking of turnovers, the first call, I agree with how faded the sideline was of just it standing, him being out of bounds while recovering it. I do agree with the first call. Now that second call with Notre Dame coming out of the pile with that ball, and it looked like we both jumped at it, and they said Navy could keep the ball. That was bullshit. That should have been Notre Dame.
Yeah. What, the one where he fumbled it and it went out of bounds?
No, the second one.
The second one.
The one where
yeah. Because they said, what did they say? Was it incomplete pass?
No, they said it was it was recovered by Navy, and
our guys came up with the ball
because it was they're saying under the pile that Notre Dame pulled it out from under the pile, like it wasn't Navy had a clear recovery before the pile. No.
So, real quick, Sean, and then we'll get out of here. What is your final score prediction against Tennessee State?
That's a good question. I want to say 60s, but I know our coach 56-10.
56-10. All right, I'm going to go 63-6 Notre Dame.
56-10 for me.
Yeah, I don't think Tennessee State gets 10 points. Honestly, I don't know if they make it across the 50 more than like once in the entire game. Dude, their offensive line is gonna get absolutely tore up.
Oh yeah, they are. But I mean, they're going to score one. They're going to have a big
Wait,
play
wait.
or something.
Do we see a Ben Morrison pick six in this game?
We see a
Christian Gray pick six.
we see a I think we see a linebacker pick six.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's my prediction. Whether it's Kaiser, Bertram, Maurice Liufau, I think we see a linebacker pick six.
All right, Sean. Well, we're all excited Notre Dame football is back. We got another warm-up game until North Carolina State next week. Hopefully Notre Dame takes care of business. But anyway, guys, this has been The Gold Standard with your host, Ryan Fravel, with my co-host at ND Forever on Twitter. We will see you guys next week when we review the Tennessee State game and then preview North Carolina State. But as always, guys, have a good night and go Irish.
Go Irish.